Hey y'all, so today we're going to talk about how to stop paying for your nonprofit out of your pockets. Let's get started. Hey y'all, Tiffany here with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. If you need help with your nonprofit, subscribe to my channel. I drop a video every week. So today we're going to talk about how to stop paying for your nonprofit out of your pockets. And I'm specifically talking to you if you are in year 2 or 3 and you're just tired. You're just tired of always having to pay for everything and not getting anything in return. So I want to offer you some tips today about how to transition out of that period so your nonprofit can finally be sustainable and you can use your money on yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about really is your mindset. So nonprofits are different than businesses, and going into it, I don't think many nonprofit founders really get that. So it makes complete sense if you're starting your own business, if you're starting your own for-profit business, for you to invest in things to get the business going. So if you have to pay for a website, if you have to pay for supplies and things like that, it makes complete sense that you are self-financing your business because you're making an investment into the business and your hope is that eventually you will see a return, right? So that's a personal return that you're looking for based on the investment you put in the beginning. Well, nonprofits are just a little different. So you have to remember that if you start a nonprofit, you don't own it. So any investment that you're making into the nonprofit, you're making a community investment. You're making it for the good of whatever community you're serving. It's not for a personal return. Now, at some point, you may get a return in terms of like a salary, but that salary is based on hours you work. You're never going to see the return on the money you put into a nonprofit beyond your taxes at the end of the year and you're asking for a charitable deduction, okay? So you have to remember that you're not supposed to get a personal return from the things that you put in. So the sooner that you get that and you understand that, the sooner you can move out of the mindset that you feel like you have to pay for everything and you have to finance everything in the beginning. You should not be doing that. It should not be all on the shoulders of the nonprofit founder. You are investing in an idea to help a community, and you need a community of people to help you invest alongside you to invest in that idea to see it grow into fruition. So the first thing that I recommend you do is get your board clear. Who's your board? Who are your supporters? Who are your volunteers? Whoever that circle is around you, that's going to help you make decisions collectively, that's going to help you define your strategy collectively, because it should all be on the collective shoulders of the board who is collectively responsible for the organization. Can you hear the word that I keep saying over and over again? Collectively. It's not a personal thing. It's not for your personal return. It's for everyone to join together as a group to see the vision forward. It may be your vision, but the execution is going to rely on everyone. Okay, so the first thing I would do is make sure your board is set and make sure your board is clear that they also have to invest. That involves their time, that involves in tapping into their networks, and that involves their money. So I always recommend that from the beginning you just set the tone. We're going to give to this organization every month so we can pay for our paperwork fees, so we can pay for our startup costs. So people are going to ask me, I know the next question you're thinking in your head is like, well, how much, Tiffany? I always start with 1,000, but you could go more or you can go less. I always say 1,000 a year. And if you break that down, that's $83 a month, or it's a little bit around $20 a week. And if that's too much, maybe it can be $10 a week, and then that's $40 a month. Whatever makes sense for who's on the board. It just means that that board, that collective, that group has to invest. And they have to be on the same page. Everyone has to know that we are doing this together. It's not, oh, we're just here for that person because this is her little idea and we want to help her, so that's why we're serving. No, that person is on the board because they believe just as much as you do in the vision of the organization, and they want to see it through. They want to see to the vision. They want to see your mission. So that's the first thing you should do, is have your board together. The second thing I recommend is that you set a budget. And it may seem like so small, like, Tiffany, what is that going to do? What impact is that going to make? But it's going to have a huge impact. As I look at people who are struggling, I have a lot of people who come to me, and I see people who are struggling, and I see people who are succeeding. And I can note the differences. And one of the key differences is you actually have an idea of what it costs to run your programs, and you have an idea of how much you need to raise to cover those expenses. So if you're out here and you're just telling people we need money, but you have no idea how much you really need, and then even if you set a goal and say, hey, we're trying to raise $5,000, but you can't articulate what that money is for or what it's going to go to, then you're going to be way less successful being able to raise money to support your organization. So the very first thing you need to do after having your board straight is set a budget. Figure out how much it costs to run your organization for a year. Figure in all the costs that you need. Figure in what it's going to take for staffing or whatever it costs to run your program. Have a goal in mind. So have that number and say, okay, this is how much we need to raise to get to that goal. And you need to sit down and you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan of how you're going to raise that money. And that plan should include many different strategies so that you're not dependent too much on one thing. And one of those strategies has to be what? It has to be the board, right? One of those strategies to raise money is your board fees or your board membership, however you want to frame it. That's going to make up some of the money you need to finance your organization. The other thing I want to say about that is make sure you have a separate bank account to do business for your nonprofit. So your nonprofit is a separate entity. Your personal finances and expenses and all of that should not be mixing with the accounts of the organization. And even though you may be spending money from your personal account for the organization, you need to keep everything separate. And that's another thing that will get you out of that mindset of you have to pay for everything. You don't have to pay for everything. You have to identify your need, and then you make an ask of the community and of your board to help fill that need. So don't get so caught up in thinking, oh, we have to pay for this, I have to pay for it myself. So make sure you keep things separate so that you can have a separate strategy and you don't feel compelled to use your personal money all the time to pay for things for the organization. So here's a couple easy ways. I want to give you a couple easy strategies for raising money, especially in the beginning. And what I'll say about it, I'll give you two specific strategies that you can use that will be really, really helpful, especially for startup organizations. But before I go through them, I want to say to you that it's really important that you are able to articulate why what you're doing is so important. You have to be able to articulate your why in such a way that people feel so led to give to you. So a lot of people make the mistake and say, support this organization because you're supporting me. I'm trying to do something. I want to do this. It's all about I and how you fit into that. But that's not what's going to compel most people to want to support you or give to you. What's going to compel them is them connecting with the mission and why you believe it's so important for your organization to exist. Obviously, you felt like there was some gap, like someone wasn't getting the services that they needed. And so the quicker you can come up with an articulate or an eloquent way to say, this is why it's so important, people are going to latch on to you. And people aren't going to want to latch on to you just because it's your project. They're going to want to latch on because they believe in the same thing you believe in. So people want to get behind things that they agree with. People want to get behind things that they think are going to do good. But a lot of times people feel stuck because they don't know exactly what to do, or they're not sure if that's the right move they should make, or they're not sure if they trust that if they do support or they do donate, it's going to really do anything. So it's your job to be able to convince them that this is the right move. If you give to this organization, it's going to make an impact. It's going to make a change. And it's your job to explain that to them, to show that to them, to give them the confidence that you will do it. And however way it takes to do that, that's your job. So before you start asking and then getting frustrated that nobody wants to give to you, make sure you're really looking at how you're asking and what you're asking for and how you're communicating to the community why it's so important that you're doing what you're doing for your organization. So these are 2 fundraising strategies you can use in the very beginning stages of your organization, or really at any point, but they're very powerful, especially for startup organizations, to help give you the money you need to start up. So I suggest you start what people call like giving circles or monthly clubs or monthly memberships. However you frame it and whatever what makes sense for you, you establish a monthly giving option where people commit to giving, say, $20 a month. And you get a group of 10 people who are a group somehow connected in some way through some association, through some group that they're a part of, and get them to commit to give $20. That's just an example. It can be more or less. And say, we need y'all to invest in our organization, and have them do that as a group. Try it for a year. It could go way longer, but try that for a year. So the more giving circles that you have, you can raise more money to support your organization. And honestly, it's so powerful because it's money you know is coming, right? You know every month that you're going to get a certain amount of money from a source, so you don't have to worry about that. You can then begin worrying about how to get donations and how to start readying yourself for grants or how to get contracts for your organization, all that kind of stuff. But I love monthly giving circles because you know the money's there. So it makes it easier. It takes a little pressure off of you. The second thing that I recommend is you trying peer-to-peer fundraising strategies. And I don't want you to get caught up in like the jargon of fundraising where you get so confused. You're like, well, Tiffany, what is that? That doesn't make sense to me. Peer-to-peer simply is you get a group of people who want to help, who believe in your mission, who start fundraising on their own on behalf of your organization. That's all it is. So when you see somebody, for example, on Facebook, start their own fundraiser to support an organization, you see that every day, right? That is peer-to-peer fundraising. That means that someone is going to take up your mission, they want to help, and they're going to fundraise for you. So if you identify maybe like 5 people every month who raise a certain amount, and we're going to start small. This can go as huge as you want it. But let's say we're going to get 5 people to raise $500 a month, right? So each month you're going to identify 5 different people, or they can rotate. So that could be $2,500 a month. If you do that every month, that is money right there that you can use to finance your programs or however you want to use that money to support your organization. So I recommend you look at peer-to-peer fundraising strategies because they can be extremely powerful. But I also recommend that you don't just let people go out there and just do their own fundraising. Help them make the ask. So help write up, an information sheet so they can talk eloquently about your organization. I love that word today. I'm on eloquently today. But help them talk about the organization. Don't just leave them out there hanging. So make information sheets, make cheat sheets or bullet points to get them, more confident about talking about your organization. Give them scripts that they can use if they're calling people or if they're making social media posts. Make it easy for them to kind of ride for your organization so that people want to give, right? And you want to control the messaging. You don't want people just out there saying anything or getting things wrong or giving people the wrong impression. And then lo and behold, once people give, it's like, oh crap, that's not what we said we were doing. So in order to avoid all of that, make it easy for your peer-to-peer fundraisers. Have scripts, have information sheets available for them so it's easier for them to fundraise for you. So I hope this video helped. So I want to see you get to a point where you don't feel like everything is on you, where you feel like you have to pay for everything, because you don't. Even from the very beginning, you don't. And I know it's completely it makes sense that you're investing in this because this is your idea if you're the founder and you want to see this work. So I'm not saying don't invest, but don't put it all on your shoulders. Have people with you, around you, working together to get where you're trying to go. So if you need more information about starting your nonprofit, please visit me at www.bossonabudget.com, and I will see you at the next video.